Welcome to Pixar and the Jolly Genius with that master of mirth, Corky Siegel. This is Life's Dream, number 39.
and drown. If I jumped in the riverbed, I bet you let me float away and drown. You say you love me, baby, but you never see me around. Trouble, swinging way up in the thistle tree. Trouble, babe, swinging way up in the thistle tree. Might trying to get to you, might tear me up in an injury. Every time I see your face, my love light flashes before my eyes. Oh, your words are so haunting, baby, but all twisted up in lies. Goodbye, heartburn and deception. You'll learn something new every day. Today is no exception. As I said, well, goodbye, baby. Goodbye, heartburn and deception. Goodbye, baby. Goodbye, heartburn and deception. You'll learn something new every day. Today is no exception.
morning, good morning. Have
morning.
your coffee, everyone. Hello to cousin Johnny Collins in Germany.
Johnny. Oh, great. We'll have to speak some German. Oh, I'm talking too soft. Johnny, how you doing? Our cousin Johnny Collins, who discovered a way of cloning DNA. He's the guy. Johnny.
He is the guy.
He's also an expert at the game called Bird House or something like that.
We had so much fun.
Yeah. Okay. This is story time, Johnny.
All right.
Everyone say hello to Johnny.
Hello, hello, hello.
Johnny Collins.
We miss you and Marie Christiane and family.
Wait, where's my notes? Uh-oh. As my friend Danny would say, come on, let's go down Storybook Lane. My friend Alvy Ray Smith. Let me just tell you how we met. This is going to be, and Johnny, I'm glad. Johnny, of course, is another scientist. You're going to love this, Johnny. You're going to totally love it. Okay. So, in the early days of Chamber Blues, Holly had discovered an experimental video that she absolutely loved. And she said, Corky, you got to write some music for this and actually play the video. So we found out who did the video, this guy named Ed Emschwiller, and we got in touch with him, and he said, yes, please, you could use it. As a matter of fact, I'll send you 2 copies of the film, and you could actually play the film. And this was in probably 1983. And we had Cliff Colnott. I had him write an avant-garde piece. And then, actually, I asked him to write an avant-garde piece even before this movie. So we had this avant-garde piece. People really loved it. You know, when you do avant-garde for 2 hours, it's one thing. When you do it for a few minutes in the context of very tonal music, it's quite beautiful. So we had this piece. Anyway, Holly said, you should write some music for this film called Sunstone and play it. And we got permission to do that. And instead of actually writing the music, I wrote an improvisation and allowed the string quartet to actually improvise in sections, and it fit with the film. It was really cool. We played it at the Acorn Theater, you know, about 4 or 5 years ago. And the following Monday, I get a call from Berkeley, California. And I don't know this, but it's Alvy Ray Smith. And let me just read a little from the Wikipedia bio. From 1975 through 1979, Alvy was a senior scientist at the Computer Graphics Lab at the New York Institute of Technology. Hi, Alvy. I'm sure Alvy is watching, or not. I'm sure he'll watch later. Alvy was the co-inventor of the full-color paint program on computers. I don't know if it was called Painter, but I know that was one of the programs, using millions of colors. In 1980 through 1986, he was the director of computer graphics and research at Lucasfilms. He was the CEO and co-founder of Altamira, which was eventually purchased by Microsoft. For 6 years, he was the executive vice president and co-founder of Pixar, which was later purchased by Disney. He invented the word Pixar. He wrote the copy for Toy Story, and he had put together the Pixar team. He won 2 Academy Awards, and the story he's going to tell you is quite amazing. But so this is a guy that calls me the day after this performance, and he says, "Whatever made you choose this film?" He said, because I personally really love this film. So I started talking. I didn't give him a chance to say anything because I was so excited about telling him about how smart I was about, video and movies and how important dimension was. And I'm explaining to Alvy about how dimension is so important, where you could actually go inside the work and be in the work. And I went for 45 minutes nonstop, and he was totally, taking it all in and saying, "Oh, that's really amazing." No. And at one point he said, I have to, share with you that I actually made that movie, Sunstone, with my friend Ed Schwiller. And I'm more proud of that than I am of Toy Story. I'm thinking, what? Yes, he was the co-founder of Pixar, and he did all the code for Toy Story and all the... And I'm feeling like I just was explaining to a fish why water was important. So anyway, we became really close friends. And Alvy agreed to do this Zoom with me a few days ago. And he wants me to share this with you. And here we go. I'm so excited. Ready, everyone? Pay attention. We're going to test you on this later.
So I've been thinking about what it is that I've been doing for the last 10 years. I've been working on this book about pixels.
Okay, before we go on, Alvy, since this is a year later, from July 31st, 2020, Alvy has released the book. The book is out, and I will link all of you up to it if you look in the comments here.
But it's really about a lot more than pixels. It's a celebration of this amazing digital revolution that has happened in my lifetime. And this Zoom right here is an example of a fruit of that revolution that was inconceivable probably as short as 5 years ago. And certainly 10 years ago, we didn't know we would be doing this and just casually doing this at high resolution. So what I hope to get across in the book is this a complete appreciation of just how awesome the revolution has been. And the revolution I'm talking about is the one I call, you can think of it as, we could call it the computer revolution, but that doesn't, computers are certainly involved, but it's what I call the Moore's Law revolution. Moore was the guy who said, and he said it this way, which is not intuitive. He said, transistors on an integrated circuit chip will double in density every 18 months. That doesn't mean hardly anything to anybody. But if you put it in terms of anything good about computers will get 10 times better every 5 years, then it's meaningful. And that, what I just said, is the same thing as Moore said, but in intuitive terms. Let me say it again, because this is a marvelous thing that has been true now for 50 years. Every 5 years, everything good about computers gets 10 times better, not twice, 10 times better. An order of magnitude, we call that. An order of magnitude is factor of 10. It's the sort of the max. Human beings can't think beyond a factor of 10. It's just, we can't do it. The only way we know how to, when we get there, we say, oh, okay, now I see, now I can go to the next order. But you can't do the next order of magnitude. We're just limited by this order of magnitude. Moore's Law, which, by the way, was expressed in 1965. Gordon Moore said this in 1965, thinking that would only be good for 10 years. In my terms, everything good will get better by factor of 10 every 5 years. All right, now just to kind of calibrate you on that. If we were talking about cars, a car that costs, let's say, $40,000 and goes 60 miles an hour today, 5 years from now, using Moore's law, would cost $4,000 and go 600 miles an hour. And 5 years later, it would cost $40 and go 6,000 miles per hour. See, we just can't think like that. Computers have done that, however. When I was young in 1965, computers were these monsters that filled up rooms, and they were far, far less powerful than this. Far, far less powerful than this. And every 5 years, they got 10 times better, and 10 times smaller, and 10 times cheaper, 10 times more memory. Just everything good got 10 times better. And nobody thought that would keep going, but it did. Bam, click, click, every 5 years, Moore's law. Hit again, hit again, hit again. Here we are. What's that? 55, let's see. 35 plus 20, 55 years later. That's 11 factors of 5. That means 10 to the 11th power. Computers today are 100 billion times better in every possible way than they were in 1965. 100 billion. It's a number so large that we just don't have any sense of it. Okay. And it's still going on right now. Right at this very moment, it's still going on. In fact, that's probably why we have Zoom now, as it happened during the last 2 or 3 years. Just to show you how hard it is to think about this, let's go 5 years from now. Moore's law will have reached 1 trillion. In 2025, computers, anything good about computers, will be 1 trillion times better than they were in 1965. What's that mean? We don't know. I can say things like, well, maybe we'll be able to download a movie instantaneously. That sounds impossible right now, but once you get that kind of horsepower, you can do that. I can almost imagine that happening. But there are other things that we just don't have the mind capacity to deal with until we get there. So that's the celebration that I really, even though the title of the book is A Biography of the Pixel, it sounds like it's about pixels, and that sounds kind of trivial, but it's really this exponential curve, this supernova. This is bigger than a supernova.
I thought this was real funny because I do story time, right? And and we'll tell the George Carlin story, or I'll tell how we met, the story of how we met, or the Corky and Holly story.
Yeah.
And they said, have Alvy tell the toy story.
Oh dear.
Do you have a short version of it? Because I know it's a 3-day story, but
Toy Story is a long story. What's amazing to me is that we were able to do it at all. We started, basically I made my first picture in 1965. Well, that was when Moore's law was 1. That was back in the bad old days when it was 1. And it took decades until Moore's law reached, I think it was 1 million, before we could even start putting pictures on screens, and we couldn't do much with them. But then another couple of orders of, factors of 10 went by, and suddenly we had computers that we could do Toy Story on. Basically, the story is, we had to master the animation and the rendering and the coloring, the shadowing, and all that. We had to master interfacing with artists, but we had to wait for those computers to surf that wave, that Moore's law wave. They just had to get faster. And in fact, Ed Catmull, who's the co-founder of Pixar with me, and I would sit with our back of an envelope, and we'd calculate, okay, how long do we have to wait before we have enough horsepower so that we can do X? And at one point, we realized, in fact, we started Pixar knowing that we couldn't make a movie, that it would take us 5 more years to make a movie. So we had to come up with a scheme that would pay for our employees for 5 years while we just simply waited for Moore's Law, for the computers to catch up in speed. And they did. And as soon as they did, we made Toy Story. But during that 5 years, we built hardware. And we were not very good at it. We would have gone broke in any normal world, but we weren't in a normal world. We were funded by this crazy man, Steve Jobs. And he wouldn't let us fail because he'd be too embarrassed if he failed, because we were the first thing he did after he got booted out of Apple. So he would not let us fail. It would be too embarrassing. If we had been a normal startup company in Silicon Valley, we would have been dead 3 or 4 times because we just simply ran out of money. And that means you couldn't pay the employees, you couldn't pay the rent, and you were dead. That's belly up. That's definition of failure in Silicon Valley. Not with Jobs back there. He would tear Ed and me apart verbally, but then he would write a check, keep us going, because he couldn't sustain a failure. But however his reasoning was wrong, but the bottom line was that we stayed alive until the computers caught up. And the day, 5 years later, I mean, just exactly what Ed and I calculated. 5 years later, factor 10 had happened at the computers. Disney company knocked on our doors and said, okay, guys, let's make that movie you always wanted to make. And they paid for it. Saved Steve Jobs' reputation and made Pixar's, that's what made Pixar.
All the stories have a moral, and all the live streams have a moral. I think this moral,
okay,
is the moral. Just correct me if I'm wrong, because it's your story.
Oh, okay.
Here's the moral. Instead of less is more is more. More is more.
I love it. That's very good. Change the title of my book. Whoa! Yeah, that's very good, Corky. Very good.
We'll keep that in the stream.
Okay.
Alvy Ray Smith saying that something I did was very good.
When Ravi Shankar showed up, it was such a treat because I didn't know him, but I just knew of him. It's like, and there he was, hanging out with me one night. What a treat! What a thrill! Yeah.
I remember he came into your studio.
Yes, he did. He came. I was working for George Lucas at Lucasfilm, and 3 a.m. I usually work overnight because then you have free access to all the machines just to yourself. It was a lot of fun. And one of my genius colleagues had just implemented a new painting feature where you paint a stroke on a tablet. We use tablets instead of mouses then. It's a stylus on a tablet. And computers are still kind of slow, so you paint. Let's see if I can do this on the screen here. Paint like this, and then just slightly behind it, the computer would paint the stroke. So there was a slight delay after you made your stroke while the computer did its thing and try to catch up with you. Now, of course, you can paint in real time, but not then. So I was mastering this beautiful new painting technique that my friend Tom Porter had just implemented. It's called Spline Painting. When in walks our video guru, Clark Higgins, who he was not only our video guru, but he was the Grateful Dead's also. So he did all right. So he walked in 3 a.m. He says, "Alvy, you know Ravi Shankar, don't you?" And I about fell out on the floor. I went, "Well, yeah. Yes, of course I do." Meaning I don't, but I'm, anyhow. He was, the most remarkable thing about Ravi to me was he was wearing this scent and I usually don't like perfumes of any sort, but he had this scent on that was just, he stood right, he came up, so I'm sitting down working on this, on the computer, and he walks up behind me, sitting right back here. And I'm in his aura, his scent aura. It was just, and he's this beautiful little man with his beautiful scent. Hero of mine musically, kind of standing right there. And there was a picture of a flower on the screen of the computer that an artist the day before had painted. And I was, that flower just happened to be there. I wasn't paying any attention to it. And in order to show Ravi that I whipped how the paint program worked, I did a gesture, and the computer followed along with this slow rendering. And damned if it didn't look like a stem for that flower. It ended perfectly at the flower as if I intended it. Well, the three of us knew I didn't intend it. It was just a beautiful coincidence. And Ravi reached up to my shoulder and went, "Alvy." It's one of the best moments of my life.
Could I say something?
Sure.
Now? Alvy.
So I tell that story in the book too.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Beautiful.
And then I explain how that curve thing works, because it works the same way that pixels work. Now that takes some explaining, but...
Right, because now you have time and space.
Yeah, so what makes a computer turn pixel samples into what we're seeing right now is the same piece of mathematics that we use to turn a stroke on a tablet into this beautiful thing on the screen. It's one of those amazing mathematical coincidences that's unappreciated unless somebody spends some time. I thought I spent the time. Yeah.
I'm so glad you spent the time. We all are so glad that you.
Yeah, the book is now in copy edit at MIT Press, so it's going to be published. And they're doing their last, rearranging, like all the dates. I have all the dates in the form. Like today is, I would write today's date, 25 July 2020. That's the way I like to do dates. It's logical, no commas. Okay. MIT Press, they want that to be July 25, 2020, comma. That's the way they do it in Europe. It just makes sense. It's day, month, year. It's the logical progression, no comma. Anyhow, they didn't like that. So I said, as long as you change them all, it's fine by me. Yeah. I noticed a lot of people, have you tried experimenting with the swapping the backgrounds out? A lot of people do that.
No.
I think it only works on...
Yeah, I've never been able to do it.
Yeah. All right, Corky, I'm going to sign off now. Say goodbye to... Oh, Jesus, you can't do it. How did you do that? How did you do that? Pretty funny.
Okay.
Right. Signing off. Adios.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
5, 4,
4,
3, 2, 1.
The jolly genius.
I'll give you a few seconds to take that all in, and we're gonna put it up on YouTube, so you won't have to miss any of it. I'm gonna do a tune now. Thank you, Alvy. It's just every
Hero.
time I talk to him, yeah, he's
Absolute hero.
a hero, and he has to meet my cousin Johnny.
Totally.
So I'm gonna do this song called Goodbye California. And I'm sort of doing it for Alvy because Alvy's from Berkeley. And it started out, somebody wrote me from California and said, Corky, I know you wrote the song Goodbye California, you know, sort of making fun of our earthquakes. I said, not really. You know, I wrote Goodbye California as a poetic vision. It wasn't really supposed to be funny. I agree people do laugh about it. It's not supposed to be funny. It's just a poetic vision. Standing on Nevada's shoreline, gazing out into the seaside, watching California bubble underneath the ocean side. But she said, well, you know, you live in Chicago, you have freezing cold winters. So we started going back and forth. I says, yeah, but you have mudslides and fires. She says, yeah, but you have muggers and you have, you know, people shooting each other. You know, so we went back and forth. But I actually ended up winning the argument when I said, you have white people that are script writers. Standing on Nevada's shoreline, gazing out into the seaside, watching California bubble underneath the ocean tide. Memories of trolley cars, memories of Hollywood, memories of all those stars. They disappeared without a word. First the shaking and then the thunder. I guess it all just slipped right under. Goodbye, California. The Lord is trouble, making his mind up. He giveth, he taketh. Well, that's the way things wind up. Goodbye, California. Millions of people on the virgin coastline cry in tears into the brine, some for the gold, some for the lies, some for the ones that they left behind. It'll take a lot of rain and a lot of time to dress the wounds that hurt inside, and for the one I love that I'll never find, she'll always burn there on my mind. First the shaking and then the thunder. I guess it all just slipped right under. Goodbye, California. The Lord is trouble, making his mind up. He giveth, he taketh. Well, that's the way things wind up. Goodbye, California. All right, whistle with me. Just make stuff up, whistle. Everybody. One more time, this is really fun. Do it again. Standing on Nevada's shoreline, gazing out into the seaside, watching California bubble underneath the ocean tide. Thoughtless, heartless, cruel Pacific, soaking up Nevada's shore. You'll not have California's coast to slap around anymore. Goodbye, California.
Get down, Corky.
Well, goodbye, baby. Goodbye, heartburn and deception. Woo! Goodbye, baby. Goodbye, heartburn and deception. You learn something new every day. Today is no exception.